My name is Chris de Monyé, and I'm a pastor with Village Church, and I'm really excited here to be with Joshua Leventhal, incredible songwriting artist, composer, and worship leader here at Village Church. Josh, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hey.
Josh is incredible. He's an interesting man with an interesting mind and an incredible eye and heart and brain to create. And he's actually created and been one of the key writers in a new song that we've just released called Throne. And Josh, I'd love to hear a little bit about what's the story behind this song? What is it that inspires you to write something like Throne?
Yeah, so like I always say that a song always starts with one idea, but I think this was one that actually kind of started with a few that kind of converged together. So it's always a little bit hazy, I think, but like one of the things I remember was I was actually sitting in a sermon at a friend's church, and they were talking about this idea of Jesus defanging death. There was like this image out of 1 Corinthians, where is your sting, death? I thought it was really poignant. And so that eventually made its way into this bridge, this idea that he went through death and actually pulled its teeth out with him.
Right.
And then the second one was...
and this is Jesus you're talking about?
Yeah, sorry, Jesus.
No, cool. I was just wondering who went through.
Probably clarify that. And as well, in addition to that, I often do like creative walks as like a means of kind of trying to gain inspiration. I knew I wanted to do an Easter song, something around death and resurrection. And so it's amazing what walking does to jumpstart the mind with this kind of stuff. And so like it's normally like the idea would be go around and then like you come back and you have some inspiration. But I often find myself writing on the walk itself.
Oh, cool.
And so did that, and this idea around the death of Jesus and all of the mocking actually being his coronation was this idea that came out of John's gospel, that like ironically while soldiers and politicians and Pharisees are beating him, they're calling him names, they're putting a crown on his head that's actually like making him bleed, that actually those acts are unknowingly declaring who he is as king.
Right.
And so once I started rolling with that, got back to my house, and I want to say like it was all in that session, that like it was just that the majority of it was done, not all of it, but like a good chunk of the song came from that.
And so, I mean, you're no stranger to writing songs. You've written songs before, full-length albums. Lion Lamb was one of the ones I've loved incredibly from you, man. Incredible stuff, right? Like you brought up the song Lepers recently, which is powerful. Like, and now you're still writing. So this creative process of writing isn't unknown to you, but you find walking is actually something that creatively helps you kind of discern your thoughts and figure out where the song wants to go.
Yeah, so walking is actually pretty new. I've only started doing that in like the last year and a half, which is crazy.
I learned to walk really young. I'm surprised you started so late, but yeah, go on.
I walked right into that. Not even intending that pun either. But yeah, I think that I've been writing since I was about 14. Like that was kind of actually when I started picking up guitar, and I just immediately started writing. Cool. I just thought that's what you did as a musician. So I've been doing it for a while. For sure. And then like only got serious about it probably like 7 years ago. That's like when I started like seeing it more as like a discipline and something that like I needed to not just kind of do when I felt like it. I needed to actually carve out time for it. I needed to start honing it as a craft.
So how do you know like when an idea is ready to be made into a song? What's the turning point to say, this is just a cool idea or a cool theological principle, but now this is actually going to be, because Throne is a worship song. Like it's a song intended for people to worship Jesus through singing. So how do you make that translation of, hey, this is a cool theological point about Jesus and and the interaction he had with the soldiers and what was going on around his death. Now this is an opportunity for people to worship. Yeah.
So I think like whether it's going to go from being an idea into a full song is like it kind of, I just know if it wants me to chase it. And I don't always know how, it just happens. So like that's one of those things where like if I feel there's like this critical mass that forms inside of you of like, okay, I think this is going somewhere, and it's almost like it's like a loose thread and you start tugging at it. And sometimes when you're doing that, like ideas you've had in the past, like for me, like I'm constantly like putting like notes in my phone, singing in my phone, voice memos, that kind of thing. And there's things I'll come back to, whether that's a little melodic idea or a lyric concept or that kind of thing, or like a mini poem. Yeah. And from there, start kind of weaving it together. But like, I think there's like, there's a lot of stuff that just stays ideas, but then there's stuff that feels like it wants to be more. And that's when I start to like really chase it down.
That's really romantic of you to say it. It makes sense. You're an artist, of course. You're going to say things poetically. But I mean, that was beautiful. Yeah, I feel like it wants to chase me, and that's when I go after it. Yeah, cool, very cool. And so then, Josh, what's the point in which you bring other people into the process? You have this idea, you have this melody, you have this song in your heart, you have this theological principle that you want to drive home. Yeah. It's going to lead people into worship. At what point do you raise the flag and say, guys, I think I got something we need to invest in?
Yeah, that's a really great question. There's no I think hardline answer for that either. I think no matter what, most musicians actually taking a song from the writing standpoint to full production is always a collaborative process. There are exceptions to that, but for the most part, that's how it works. And so I always try to distinguish there's three main things to a song. There's the writing, which I consider that's what it is if you're just sitting at a piano or you're playing on an acoustic guitar, the chords, the melody, and the lyrics. That's the heart of it. Right. And then the next is the production. So that's what the other instruments are playing. That's the mix. That's all the other textures that get added on top. And sometimes those lines do blur a little bit. Sometimes a guitar line will feel like it's intrinsically part of the song. It's just not part of the arrangement. And then lastly is the performance, and that's actually whoever sings it or plays it, what those things are. And distinguishing between those three things, different people come in at different stages of the way. And so for this one, once I kind of got it to the point of okay, I think this is it as just on a guitar core bit. Mm-hmm. Then we went from there. I took it actually to my boss here, who's also a songwriter himself, and so we kind of workshopped a couple ideas and started tweaking things a bit. Mm-hmm. And then past that, then we sit down with a few of our musicians, and basically we just jam out the song. Go okay, what are some ideas for parts and that kind of thing. And so that kind of gave us a structure and a framework. One of our guys, Connor, helped me demo out a version of it that kind of really gave us a sense of, okay, this is what a skeleton of it could be. Cool. And then other musicians come into the process, guys like Jordan Waller and Michael Bogris, who, they hear guitar lines and they hear piano parts and that kind of thing. And we get grooves going and then start to slowly put flesh on it. And so there's not necessarily one way or the other. Sometimes when I'm writing, I hear a line immediately, a melodic line that's going to go into it. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's just I just know this is what it is, and then I let other people kind of inform that. And I think sometimes even what a musician will do, if a drummer plays a part a certain way, that kind of changes the way we need to do the phrasing on something a little bit, and those kind of things. And so all of those, basically I think you just have to be open throughout the process to other voices coming in and having thoughts, especially when we're doing this as a church. It's this isn't just my music that I've released under my own name. This is something we're doing as Village. Yeah. And so, the other creative minds, and we have some pretty brilliant ones, play a really, really huge role in that. And I think it was Annie Dillard who said, "Don't be afraid to kill your little darlings." Ooh. And so it's trying to it
sounds like a hard thing to do.
It's very hard to do. But yeah, just basically trying to know what you need to hold loosely and what you want to let other people have say in. Because at the end of the day, honestly, what's more important than my own sense of what comes to me naturally is how can the song be the best that it can be. Mm-hmm. And so other people are going to see things I don't, they're going to hear things I don't, and I think that even goes for lyrics. There's perspectives that people have that's this line doesn't I know what you were thinking, but we don't know what you were thinking because of how that came out. And so that's something I try to work on in myself, but you need other people as well in that, I think.
I think that's what's so beautiful about music is you create this thing that you're able to take anywhere with you, right? You see people who are going through significantly hard things in their lives. Yeah. They're going through hospital times when they're trying to heal from something significant in their lives, or diagnosis, or moments where they've lost loved ones, or breakups, or relationship changes, or everything. Yeah. And you have this whole weight, and then music is actually something that can carry people through that and offer a lot of hope. You hear people reach out and want, in their dying wishes, they'd love to just hear this artist play this song because it has meaning to them and there's such a purpose behind it. I mean, knowing the weight that music can carry, where in the process do you feel satisfied to release something to the world? That feels like it would be a really hard mountain for me to get over. As far as this is good enough for us to release. Do you know what I mean? Totally. There's an interesting idea there.
Yeah, and I think actually that's something that's gotten harder after I've already released music. Because when you've never done it before, the first time I ever did it, with my first EP, it was kind of okay, just here it is. These are songs I feel convicted and good about. But then as you continue to go on, it's okay, what is you want to be moving forward while still retaining who you are.
Right.
And so it can feel like a lot of weight, but I think at the end of the day, like I go like, okay, if this compels me, hopefully it will compel somebody else. So like I don't write something that I think will be good enough for like, you know, other people might like it. It's more of like do I feel like I want to be singing it? Could I be singing it? Could I be led by it?
Right.
That's a huge question for me. And to your point about like, yeah, the power that music plays, both in terms of like, I think like, it's such a holistic experience. I think that that's something that, that's why I take it so seriously. It's because it's like, okay, this is like a really beautiful way of acting out. I think what one of Jesus says, the greatest commandment, which is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And I think when music is functioning the way it's supposed to in the church, it can do all of those things. It can involve our will, it can involve our heart, it can involve our mind all at the same time. It's not compartmentalized. And I think that's something that's so beautiful about it. It's very formative. And the role it plays, I think in terms of like being a songwriter, like honestly, that the depth of people's response to something is always more important than the breadth. So like, yeah, it's cool if it gets a lot of plays and that kind of thing, but what's way cooler is when somebody will come to me and say, hey, like, we want this at our father's funeral, like, or something like that. That is like the moment when it's like there just really aren't words for that. Like, I don't really know how to explain it.
No, it's incredible. It's an honor to have something that you've created to have that kind of impact in someone's life. And I mean, following that same thought, what is the hope you have releasing the song? What do you hope this song does for the people of Village Church and beyond? Yeah,
so I think firstly, I hope that it serves our church. I hope that it can be a song that we sing together as a means of knowing our God better, and then can later be reflected in the greater church as well.
Yeah.
And so like I think at the end of the day, that's always the hope, is that like, man, does this song help people know their God better and stir their affections towards him more? Like, do they have a clearer picture of who he is through it? And so that, I think, is like the hope for what we continue to write, because, you know, there's a lot of other songs already written, whether it's me or some of our other people or ones we've done together, that are going to be coming out in the future. And the hope would be that these songs aren't just like, yeah, we released a song that like we're planning on like having this kind of thing happen on Spotify with. It's rather, it's like, okay, is this the kind of song where people in their adoration of Jesus see him more clearly and experience him more deeply? So
I mean, give us a little bit of a taste. What is the plans for the future, Josh Leventhal? Are there going to be singles that are being released along the way? Are there a plan to release a full-length album? Yeah. What is this going to look like, and where can people find it?
The ultimate hope would be full-length album, and so I think the next step is like we start figuring out what those songs out of the ones that are written and are being written right now are. And
so you have a team of people writing songs right now as we speak.
Yes, they're working on that stuff. So,
dude, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's a process. It's a process we're figuring out, because like, you know, I've been here a year and a half now, and it's like, okay, now I'm like reaching a depth of relationship with people where there's way more synergy with that stuff. And so that's the eventual goal is full-length album, but the next step is just songs. And like, honestly, we want to sing them in church.
Right.
Like, we want to be doing songs that we can actually use for our corporate worship. And yeah, right now at this time, we're not meeting together in the normal way, but that even in people's homes, that there's a unity that comes through us singing together, and how important that is.
Yeah, so you have this idea to write music for people to sing corporately. Obviously, there's a mandate you have when you're writing, not just towards people's feelings and things, but you're actually leading people in worship. Like you said, this is carrying a different mandate. There's a different mantle on your shoulders as you're writing for a corporate gathering in a congregation you're trying to lead in worship. What are some of the things you look out for in the midst of writing a song like Throne to make sure that it actually properly fits the mandate that you feel is being applied to you in writing songs for corporate worship?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So for me, like in going to Bible school, that was like the hope of me majoring in biblical studies, going into being a worship leader and a songwriter, going like, okay, I don't want to just be a musician first and disciple second. I want to be deeply like informed with who my God is, and like understanding him and being able to represent that well. And so in terms of like what it means for the people of God to sing, I think it's important for a few things. One, I think for worship to be Christian and not just like some generic sense of God, it has to point to Jesus and his cross. Like, that's at the core of the Christian faith. That's at the core of communion, which is at the heart of Christian worship and always has been. And it's, according to Scripture, the clearest picture of who our God is. Like there's all these beautiful things about his power and his nature and, you know, all these like ontological questions. But at the end of the day, like you want to see the clearest picture of him and his character. It's him bleeding for us. And then, so that would be first. And second, I think specificity is really important in terms of music. I think that like, I don't ever want us to lose imagery. I think imagery is what speaks to our hearts. And I think that that's what like gives us pictures of who he is. And so for a song like Throne, it's like, okay, like what does it look like to not just say these truths about God, but to like paint them. And so those are the kind of things I want to invite people in to realities. And that's something that I think the verses and the bridge do more. And then the chorus is more of just like proclamation. It's like, okay, the verses kind of set the stage. The chorus is the response to that stage. And then the bridge is, okay, this is what it looks like for his power to be manifest in dying and rising.
Wow. Yeah, I think it's a powerful thing you're able to do just through the lyrics, and I commend you for this song. Josh, tell our people where they can find Throne in case they want to learn it, listen to it outside of a Sunday experience. Where can they find it?
Yeah, so to listen to it, you can hear it on all digital platforms. It's available on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, YouTube. We have a lyric video on YouTube as well. Any other Amazon Music, all of the digital platforms, you can find it on iTunes. And as well, if your church wants to sing it, we have charts available on praisecharts.com under Village Worship. And hopefully you're going to have multi-tracks for it soon as well, to add that as well too.
Cool. So everyone, this is the first step of Village Worship in the world, giving you the opportunity to worship and to serve Jesus in the way that you worship him and love him in corporate gatherings, but also by yourself as you listen to the song. So make sure you do check it out, stream it, play it, get to know it, get to sing it. We hope, and I know Josh hopes, it's a real blessing to you as you continue to worship Jesus in your life, and hopefully that it also just grows your affection for who Christ is in life, in death, and then to his throne as king. And so there's some incredible imagery in the song. Josh, I just commend you and your team on a job well done. Looking forward to this song, yes, obviously dropping and becoming part of a household rhythm in our lives and our hearts, but also just to the new ones coming out as well. It sounds like a really exciting season for Village Worship.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. I'm pretty pumped for what's next, what's coming.
Dude, we're glad to have you at the helm, man. All right, guys, we love you. We'll see you soon and hope that you check out this song as soon as physically possible.